57 days into the Gulf disaster, a little more than 6 hours until the president's first Oval Office address, and growing debate over expectations that President Obama will tonight use the most powerful setting in the world to talk about BP and also to push for a key part of his legislative agenda. Some leading Republicans holding a news conference earlier today.
Stop exploiting this disaster to pass this cap-and-trade energy tax and actually start doing your job under the law in leading this disaster. And this job-killing ban on drilling is causing more problems right now than the oil long-term because it's threatening over 40,000 jobs. It's starting to already have reverberating, crippling effects to our economy, and it doesn't do anything to cap the well and to actually address the problems of the oil coming onto our shore. So we want the president to start leading.
All right, joining us now to talk about it, Republican strategist Pete Snyder, CEO of New Media Strategies, and also former Bill Clinton pollster Bernard Whitman. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, Pete, I want to start with you. Much has been made of the fact that the president is going to use the Oval Office for the first time for this speech to talk about the oil issue. But should the bigger question be, is it appropriate for him to use the Oval Office to push his legislative agenda, cap and trade, and energy?
Well, you know, Shannon, I think the president can use the Oval Office in any way, shape, or form that he wants to push larger government and higher taxes. The question is it the right thing to do for the country? And in this case, absolutely not. Look, the president should have been all over this issue from the very beginning. He should have looked at some of the failures of the Bush administration, and President Bush even admits they weren't quick enough on the draw at Katrina. President Obama has done a horrible job really playing political beer pong with BP over this issue instead of taking a real leadership position from the very, very beginning.
All right, Bernard, even though the president himself, as we've heard, cannot swim under the water and stop this leak, he's taken a lot of heat. He's taken a lot of criticism for how the administration's responded, their effectiveness in communicating what they're doing as well. Now we are seeing this slew of editorials and pieces from across the pond. The British media furious at the president because they think he is couching this as a British issue, or the BP is simply just a British company when it's clearly not. Can he catch a break?
Look, I think that Gerald Warner, who wrote in that one of the editorials, is still pissed that England lost both wars, or maybe that they couldn't beat us in the World Cup. But given England's political mess, I think that he would do well to concentrate on his political system and leave the American system up to us. The arguments that are being made are just factually wrong, silly, and just plain stupid. The complaint that Obama is inappropriately comparing 9/11 to the BP spill is just factually incorrect. What the president said was, much as 9/11 was changed the way that we think about terrorism and security going forward, the BP disaster is really going to have a fundamental impact on how we view energy and the environment going forward, and it absolutely should. And the notion that somehow that the president is exaggerating the extent of the spill is laughable. It's absolutely not in the president's interest to do this. He is ultimately responsible as commander-in-chief, and there have been many criticisms in recent weeks that the extent of the spill actually has been minimized.
All right, Pete, first I want to jump in on the issue about the 9/11 comparison, because we've heard from a number of people speaking out saying, regardless of whether it's legitimate or not, they find it very offensive because it was a man-made terror attack that killed nearly 3,000 people versus what happened here in the Gulf. People are calling it cruel. They're calling it insensitive, off base. They say he's using it to divert people away from what the administration's not been able to do in the Gulf. Is that fair criticism?
I think it is fair criticism. Look, I think it's at the least, it's a very, very poor choice of words. And this is really surprising from the great communicator-in-chief. I mean, I have no doubt that the president's going to hit it out of the park tonight with his speech. He's great at speeches, but what we really all owe Bernard an apology. He was a former Clinton pollster. Hillary Clinton clearly would have been a much better president than our current president, President Obama. He just does not have the experience here. Furthermore, I'm just really surprised that the Brits are mad at us. I mean, I thought the moment that Barack Obama stepped into office, the entire world was supposed to love America again. So, you know, what's going on here? I can't believe this is happening.
All right, we are all human, clearly, including the president. Bernard, I want to ask you, though, about the situation we saw the GOP taking to the mics, decrying the president, what they think he's going to do tonight, as much as he's taking criticism for possibly politicizing this whole thing for a gain and legislative gain. Is the GOP to be blamed also for stepping up and heading to the mics as they did today?
No, I mean, this is what politics is all about. But what I think the president needs to do is three things. One, he needs to take clear and ultimate responsibility for the cleanup. Two, he needs to update the American people on efforts to stop the flow of oil into the Gulf. And three, he needs to outline a vision for how we're going to clean up the Gulf, reimburse the victims, and lay out a vision for how we're going to prevent this type of disaster in the future. What is very clear is that this spill has outlined in sharp relief the need to reduce our dependence on oil, increase our reliance on clean burning fuels, and we need to pass legislation that is going to allow us to wean ourselves away from oil and become more energy independent.
All right, we'll be
Bernard,
all watching
higher
to see
taxes and bigger government is not the answer.
All right, we got to leave it there, gentlemen. That'll be our final statement for now. Pete Snyder and Bernard Whitman, we thank you both for your debate today.